Okay, welcome to Ramsgate Town Council Planning and Infrastructure Committee, Wednesday the 14th of May. Welcome to anyone who's watching online as well. Can everyone, including me, make sure their phones are turned to silent? And we have apologies from Councillor
Alban, due to a family commitment.
Yes, that's very good. Do we have any declarations of interest? No. The minutes of the meeting held on the 16th of April. Can someone propose? I don't think I was here. No. Councillor Austin, Councillor Hetherington. Yeah, all those in favour? Yeah, that's passed. And the next thing is the Highways Improvement Plan over to the Town Clerk.
Thank you, Chair. So the first item is a general report. This provides an update on various Highways Improvement Plan matters. The report includes several updates, including notably the launch of a community speed watch scheme on Dumpton Park Drive, progress on the installation of a speed indicator device, a detailed summary from a recent meeting between Central Harbour ward councillors and KCC officers, covering such issues as resurfacing, pedestrian crossing, parking enforcement and town centre access concerns. Additionally, there are notes on recent speed checks, online promotion of road safety resources and correspondence with schools, though disappointingly no responses have been received regarding safety concerns from the local schools. You're also asked to consider 3 new resident-submitted requests for the potential inclusion in the Highways Improvement Plan, coach and vehicle access issues at Harbour Parade, the need for safety railings on Lillian Road outside the school, and long-term campervan parking in a lay-by near Dumpton Park Drive. The committee is invited to note the report and consider whether to include these new items in the Highways Improvement Plan.
Just first of all, the campervan parking. This is just a comment on it. They were lots of campervans parking along Victoria. Yeah. All the residents complained because it messed up their views, but they were entitled to complain. And very quickly, TDC put in an order banning them from being there overnight. So I don't know whether Councillor...
Which has been largely ignored. I mean, we had somebody who lived there for about 3 months. So it's very variable. We've got a lot of camper vans on all the side streets now, at the bottom of all the side streets, which have moved off there, but we've still got people on the front and people elsewhere. And you see, various snow places around town, St Luke's Avenue, etc. And down by the Montefiore Woodland is another one where people like to park their camper vans. We also have had a series of complaints from residents in our ward where somebody comes and parks their camper van in front of somebody else's terraced house at the end of a street and then walks away to their house because they don't want it in front of their house. They're perfectly happy to put it in front of this other person's house.
Well, as soon as we move them from one place, they will just move to another. Exactly. Because I think they were banned from the Western Undercliff as well. Sorry, Councillor.
They are banned from Western Undercliff, but they seem to have removed all the signs.
Yes.
But basically what we need to dedicate campervan sites like they've got in photos. But also we have discovered how we deal with, because I'm absolutely certain on your cliff there's somebody living in a caravan. I can't remember what road it was, but there was water being discharged. So we had the terrible problem on Grove Road that started in 2023, and then we piled in, and the lovely man from KCC, Tony, rings me. If you report anything, Tony invariably rings you. He thought that we might, because I said to him, if these were travellers, gypsies and travellers, we'd be all over this. But they've been living in this caravan dealing drugs. We have a traveller, a gypsy traveller worker at KCC who issued the notice for the caravan to be removed, which was ignored, and it ended up with 10 policemen and the sheriff of Kent came and removed the caravan. So the caravan was eventually removed, but there was human excrement and waste.
That's the problem. Councillor Shank.
The problem with the doctor's surgery, they've got 2 camper vans, they've been there at least 8 months. It's a well-used surgery. If we had a time limit on that parking, there would be no problem, because a lot of people want to put in there, go to the doctor's surgery, but they can't, because, like I say, all they've done is move away from the seating.
Well, the problem is, I mean, when the Victoria Parade came in, I tried to monitor that the traffic wardens were going up there. They said, oh yes, but if they were, they're not anymore.
We had somebody that, let's say, 3 months lived there.
Yeah.
Ran his business from there.
Yeah.
Victoria Parade.
I think the final car park on the seafront, that should be dedicated for camper vans.
So camper vans can't go in there.
Sorry, Councillor.
Remind ourselves, what are we doing then? We're looking for a dedicated site, or we're approving a dedicated site, or we just think we want a dedicated site? What are we doing?
I think we want a dedicated site in our action plan.
Yes.
And we need to go to Councillor, what's his name, Bright, to explain to him.
Okay.
We have already brought this up, but he's less worried about Ramsgate, I think, than some of the other places where there are bigger problems. Sorry.
I mean, the best place for these vehicles is an unloved part of Ramsgate, and that's down where the marina swimming pool was. I mean, that'd be out the way. And as far as a camper van was parked up in Newington, it was dealing drugs, dog was barking all day and night, and not Newington, Norwood. And I actually wrote an old-fashioned letter, and that's been removed, and the trouble has been sorted out. Can't do it all the time, but when you've got someone that's going to completely ruin someone's area, it is a...
We know CDC councillor's got it removed.
Yes.
I mean, the idea of a camper van parking site somewhere in Thanet is in the parking strategy, isn't it? It's just that it's regarded as so far in the future.
Yes.
Could probably drop off the twig before.
Well, I think
we need to be pushing for that to happen in Ramsgate.
Councillor Wing.
I think we invite Councillor Bright to walk around parts of Ramsgate, and I think the camper van issue it's multifaceted, because if you've got a camper van and you're not visiting the area, you're going to park it on the street, and the only thing that's going to address that is a residence parking scheme, which would limit you to 2 cars. And I would fully support, and I have a camper van, I would fully support a residence parking scheme that was graduated, so that if the bigger your vehicle, the larger the size of your vehicle, the more you have to pay for your residence parking spot.
I was going to say, apparently camper vans are parking on the harbour.
Yes.
And some of them are emptying their chemical toilets there, which is not really nice. No.
We could speak to Matt about that, Harbour Master.
Well, yeah, I think we've got to approach it through Councillor Bright to find some. The idea is that we put it in our plan and say someone's got to be found. And I think the car park at the end is the place where they put up the bracket. I mean, the problem is, once you say camper vans can park here, you then probably need some facilities like toilets or showers.
They haven't in Folkestone.
I was about to say they haven't in Herne Bay either.
They haven't, all right.
Because I got phoned up by residents who were coming down to say, where can we park our camper van? And they were cross that there wasn't a designated area. And I said, well, actually, in that case, you can park anywhere free, legally. And they're like, oh, because they actually wanted a designated site.
Yeah, well,
there's no facilities, they said.
Unfortunately, they were using the Sea Garden as a toilet. which upset lots of people.
Yes, understandably.
As Royston.
We've been able to put portaloos in Western Olive through the school summer holidays. It's surely not beyond the wit of the council to put portaloos on that car park for the school summer holidays, and at least that's something.
Well, let's ask for that, councillor.
I mean, it's a big problem, but the problem outside the doctor's surgery is an urgent one. They've been there too long.
Which doctor's surgery? Are we talking Dashwood? Are we talking?
No, that's it.
Park Drive.
Up that way anyway, because you've got Petticoat Lane and all parts of the pavement down there,
Yeah.
and you can't get up and down that road. But the two camper vans have probably been there a good 8 months.
But I'm not sure what we can do about them without a law saying they're not part of Partner. So we can ask KCC perhaps to put up a sign. Do you think our KCC councillor could do that?
When we got our new team up and running, it's something I've been thinking about anyway, because people do go there and they, know where to park.
So we could put. So
I'll bring that up with our new, whoever it is.
transport person.
Sorry, I know, and it is related, and I get frustrated when more and more yellow lines appear because it just makes the problem bigger elsewhere. So I noticed that Helen posted up on Facebook that TDC are working with a company called, I can't remember the name, to look at residents' parking scheme, and we are about to set up a Central Harbour residents' parking strategy group, because it's what we are constantly asked for all the time. So would it be, I know we can't add it to our parking, to our HIP, but should we agenda that to be discussed? Because I know some of the Eastcliff councillors are less in favour of a residents' parking scheme, but we probably, given that TDC are actually going to explore that, we need a common voice from here. And I mean, walking my ward, there's definitely an area that needs to be residents' parking scheme and an area that doesn't, maybe wouldn't benefit from a residents' parking scheme. But should we discuss it? Should it be an item for discussion?
In the full council?
Yeah.
I don't see why not.
Can I just say on that, it doesn't give you the right to park. It might have to be the residents, but other residents can park there as well, so that everybody's looking out the window to see if they can use that space. That's a big problem. But I know TDC have been looking at that, especially Joint Transport Board, and it's a big issue. So we can upset somebody, haven't we? That's what the biggest problem. If you think, we've got the problem, nobody has got parking places. I mean, I live in Cannon Road. We've got 3 cars I'm paying for the car park because everybody's in the town, they park in Cannon Road. You've got these Airbnbs, park there Friday night, Saturday, Sunday, and whiz away in there.
Do I need to propose that as a motion here, or can it just happen?
Well, as an individual councillor, you could bring it forward
All right, I'll do that.
yourself, or it could be a recommendation from the committee.
So with the Harrods action, or with this list of problems that started at the end, so we now need to go back through, presumably the school in Lillian Road ought to have their railings. Can that be in our highways action plan? I mean, the schools around here are very, very neglected by KCC. There are no, Chatham and Clarendon, there's no, if you've seen them, I'm sure you have, those kids trying to cross the road. There's no signs.
I've been there 10 years.
Yeah.
Trying to get anything done. I mean, it is a big concern.
Well, now you can.
I actually go to KCC at Sandwich and just tell me that they're busy. But it doesn't help me with.
But now you're the leading.
Now you're in charge.
Now you're
Exactly.
Oh, no.
No excuses.
So what are you saying? Sorry, Pat, what are you suggesting? Sorry, I didn't.
It's okay, Jane.
I'm suggesting that we add Lillian Road to our.
Yeah.
But I'm also suggesting that we have a wider problem with schools.
Yes.
I would agree. Is it not already on our action plan, schools? So I've been travelling around and trying to keep an eye on schools across Thanet, And I don't think we have any controlled traffic calming around any of the schools in Ramsgate, which I find pretty shocking. And I know there is traffic calming around schools in Margate.
Yes.
Just to confirm that the third priority improvement for the highways improvement plan is safe crossings, safe journeys to all schools.
Yeah.
So I think Lillian can probably be put as a caveat underneath that as a particular issue.
And when we talk about this speed indication, this will partly come into the schools. So what was the third thing that we were asked for? Oh, the coaches down Harlem Parade.
Designated coach parking we need.
I thought there was in Staffordshire Street car park, wasn't
I've not seen signposts. I think
I don't think
I think this is more actually of a parking enforcement matter, which is quite good because it's not another thing to take to TDC, the KCC.
I could inquire.
Pursue this with TDC.
Yeah,
We've got to,
we've got to
no, I'm trying to think who told me so.
get in on Councillor Bright's traffic thing, which is very Broadstairs centred. He says we've got a full complement of wardens at the moment with 10. I can't see that's actually really enough for the whole Thanet, especially in the summer.
Over the summer.
But, I mean, I get cross that you can't walk on the pavements in Harbour Street, for example, with a legally parked cars every night.
Every day, yeah.
Every night.
that's part of the town centre traffic order, isn't it? That I think.
Yeah. So we will,
Coaching is a big problem because we want the students in Ramsgate and the students that they walk a lot of places. They come to Ramsgate and they probably park their coach there and they back it in there. We've lost all our coach parking areas. That used to be a bus station down there. They either park up near St Augustine's,
which is a pain.
Which is
a pain.
Dangerous.
But where do they park? But we must encourage these students into Ramsgate, and that's where they park momentarily. But I've said for a long time, when they turn right at that burger bar, there's no signs to say it's a cul-de-sac, and it is a cul-de-sac. And I've asked for that for 10 years.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
But we
On a Sunday, cars just turning around coming back.
yes, we'd ideally like to make that pedestrian apart from necessary access council.
We talked to KCC quite some years ago, didn't we, about having a sign.
Yes.
And they said we could pay for it. And then with all the proposals for the road improvements and so on, which we thought at that stage in our instance were imminent, we thought, oh, well, we won't need to do that because it will, it will be largely pedestrianised, etc., and here we are still waiting for it. So,
I mean,
we should have done that at the time.
they are aware of the way people park on the roundabout down here, the way people are parking on the harbour arm.
The speed at which some of the motorbikes and so on come past here as well, is it?
Yeah. And I've lost track of what I was saying. You carry on.
I think the harbour's under a different regime because I understand, I spoke to some, because they're all being asked to move out while the Dunkirk little ships are on, and I said, in that discussion, they said there's a real problem with parking down there because they used to issue tickets, so you put your little badge on, and they don't now. So any old person parks there. So it seems enforcement can't enforce the harbour because there's no way of. But I will. Shall I volunteer? Next time I go out of Thanet and come back into Thanet, I did this with the multi-storey car park to check if the signage was okay, and it isn't okay. I will pretend I'm a coach and see where the signage directs me, because I think that's what we need to do. We need to audit what's happening first.
Well,
and I'll see where it takes me.
A lot of coaches park. What's Marine Drive, isn't it, down there? Yeah. A lot of groups, there's a sort of South London Baptist group that all come one day. There's Jewish groups that all come. They all park down there. But it's not particular. I mean, it's all right for a few coaches, but it's not a proper coach.
No, I mean, I think it's Staffordshire, if Staffordshire Street is a coach park, then
I
we.
can't remember who told me that.
We need to make sure that signage, because I can't remember seeing any signage
No.
for coaches, apart from getting on the ferry, which doesn't exist.
I'm not sure how you get to Stafford.
No, and I'm also thinking,
neither am
I think somebody might have been asking me even, so if.
Coaches won't get into, the coach and lorry park was in Cannon Road. The turning circle now is too much for them, they have to come up on the pavement. And that is a big problem. Anyway, all I can say is, I've got one or two or three, as soon as I can get someone at KCC as far as it, and I'll mention that and see where we get.
So what you mentioned, the school.
I'm going to talk about the camper vans, when TDC, when we do a joint transport, there's an allocated space at Palm Bay where they can pay their £10 a night, but yet these people want, that's for camper vans, and it's been quite successful, hasn't it, I think?
I've not been there, but I go to Folkestone, which is successful, and Dover.
So the camper vans.
Yeah, but these people are not going to pay £10 a night. I mean, there's some vans along there, you think they're just vans, but they're not, they're camper vans.
Well,
They look like a van, but they're not, they're sleeping them.
I think the camper van things might be a TDC thing.
Yes.
With the making the end car park, which
Camper van
size up if you're staying all day, pay £10 or something. So that's all very unclear. But KCC signs for not parking in the lay-by and elsewhere.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, or not parking overnight, lay-by.
Well, many years ago, we was talking about Ramsgate buses, stagecoach, and when Peter Cameron's time was here, we was talking about moving some of them coach parks where the stagecoach, move it along further, because when all them coaches, and some of these coaches do stop there on the stagecoach stop to unload their passengers from London. If we could move one down a bit, I don't know, near the steps.
Well, yes, that's supposed to be better than driving down here. Yes, councillor.
Am I right in thinking that what we're adding to the HIP is, further down, is trying to, the word's gone right out of my head, we're trying to find a designated coaching area place? Research.
Yes, yes.
Could we call that a drop-off point? That sounds better.
Well,
They still need to park.
yeah.
If they dropped them off and find that park that we
Yeah.
looked at, that.
Drop Stoke Park.
Do we need to propose that, or?
I heard something. I think it is quite common to have a drop-off point that's somewhere.
In the town centre.
But actually, and then where you go and park for 4 hours or a day could
Yeah.
be
Oh,
quite out of Ramsgate.
Yeah.
Broadstairs.
Yes.
But yeah, back to Broadstairs on Margate. Government acre.
Yes.
Government acre.
There has been a suggestion the drop-off point is at the bus stop in
Leopold.
no, it could be Leopold Street or round the right.
So I propose that we add these things onto the HIP, and
Yes.
speak to Councillor Bryce.
Yes.
Arrange a meeting with him.
Do you need to second that?
Yes. We need a seconder, we'll all second it, yeah. Right,
All those in favour?
well,
Thank you.
we are.
Doesn't matter, it's still protocol, love, and we're online, yeah?
So that's the coach, that's the. We did. Did you miss it?
Yes, yeah, sorry, I missed it.
Sorry. Yeah. Thank you. So Lillian Road, Dean, could you move down a bit, please? Yeah. Why, are they accused of being Londoners parking on the roundabout? I mean, there might be, but, so we've done the lay-by. Well, we haven't done it, we've talked about it. And, yeah, so that's down to KCC to give us some sites for that. without charging us. Right, so what's our next?
The second item is town centre traffic problems. And this report provides an update on the council's second highways improvement plan priority, which focuses on the town centre. Councillors Makinson and Wing have met with the town centre and tourism manager and the lead technician in an offer to identify key issues within the pedestrianised zone that may require changes to the existing TRO. A number of practical concerns were raised, including vehicle access and enforcement, surfacing and curb safety, inappropriate deliveries, inappropriate signage, and misuse of the area for vehicles, cyclists and e-scooters. Questions were also raised about bin storage, loading provisions and public understanding of signage. In order to support any potential revision to the TRO, KCC requires a clear understanding of the specific problem that needs to be addressed with public support. As such, the recommendation is for the council to consult with local residents and businesses to gather their views and suggestions. This feedback will help inform any future proposals and ensure that the community's concerns are accurately represented. So the committee is asked to note the report and consider approving a town centre survey to engage with the community on these matters.
How do we actually do that? Do we do it online or do we go out with bits of paper?
It would need to be a mixture to gather, reach different people. So it could be leaflets in all the business doors, something online for residents and users of the high street.
And then a bit of a workshop.
I think there will be a lot of support for this. I shouted at someone coming the wrong way down King Street at 3 o'clock this afternoon in the pedestrian area, and the men sitting outside that second-hand furniture shop all cheered me.
There is signage, but it's not being enforced, and I think, when we did the KCC walk, the whole area is due to be resurfaced. It's coming to the end of its life. And it would be really interesting, and maybe some of the high street's money, which, is still there and none of it's been spent. I think the town centre traffic order just needs to be a completely different colour, so that when you move into it, you're coming into a different area.
Absolutely.
Then there needs to be much bigger signage, and then there needs to be enforcement. But it's interesting, I looked at the sustainable area, because we were really struggling to find out what constitutes a town centre. Well, for me, I couldn't find the sustainable map, which is where if you're building houses or converting something, you don't need parking because you can walk everywhere. So it seemed to me that the limits of that should be the town centre area, because you're encouraging people to walk and cycle.
Public transport.
Yeah, but you walk to the public transport, don't you? So what you're trying to do in that area is you're actually trying to reduce the amount of car movements in that area by building houses that don't have parking. So it seemed to me, and I've finally got that map, so it'd be interesting to look at that map and see whether it's appropriate or whether we need to shrink it down. But it is complicated. In the evening, there's just cars parked all over the place.
It would be wonderful if we could resurface the high street. It is so dangerous.
It is due.
Well, we'll have dependent on
KCC funding.
KCC, yes. We can't pay for that. Right. Is there anything else to add about? We just want to support that.
Yeah, so note the information and confirm that officers will conduct a survey of residents and businesses on the matter.
Well, I'll propose that.
Noted.
We've got seconded. All those in favour? That's everybody except our KCC.
Favour of that, Trevor.
Are we talking about the proposal detail, the speed indicating?
Well, we're getting on to that. Yeah.
Well, there's lots of discussion going on, people doing 20 mile an hour, and you get more exhaust fumes out of an exhaust pipe, and pushing the problem away. But I wasn't elected to have a war on motorists. I think we need to either educate these drivers and need more policing and maybe highway matters. I mean, tonight, there's people driving in the town.
Councillor Shaw, we haven't actually started that part of the...
Yeah, can we do things in order?
You mentioned it earlier.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, they're circumventing Harbour Street from Iceland and coming into Townend and going down, one way round.
So the next thing is to talk about the speed indicator device.
Thank you, Chair. This report seeks the committee's input on the placement of poles for a portable speed indicating device under the parish SID scheme, with Dumpton Park Drive identified as a suitable location due to its length and known speeding concerns. The scheme managed by Kent County Council requires 3 pole locations. It's proposed that 2 be installed at either end of Dumpton Park Drive, with a 3rd location to be agreed. Alternatively, members may wish to offer a pole to Broadstairs and St Peter's Town Council for their use. The report outlines a number of Ramsgate roads where speeding has been reported anecdotally, although not verified by KCC data. Members are asked to consider whether any of these would benefit from a speed indicating device, or if the 3rd pole should be placed in an area marking a speed change, as suggested by KCC's Community Engagement Officer. With indicative costs for the equipment estimated to be around £8,000 for the device and £3,000 per pole, the current HIP budget is £30,000. The committee is invited to consider whether to proceed with the purchase of a speed indicating device and 3 poles for Ramsgate use, whether to offer any poles to Broadstairs and St Peter's Parish Council, and where the 3rd Ramsgate pole should be located, subject to data or strategic need. Without the evidence of speeding on a road at the moment, I would be mindful of, I think there's a lot of places where we feel that there's a problem, but quite often perception doesn't match speed data. So it's really thinking hard about where there really is felt to be a speeding problem.
Councillor Nixon.
Well, not just recently, but it's a problem that's definitely escalated in the last couple of months is Grange Road, and especially in the evenings, is being used as a bit of a racetrack by motorcycles at the moment. And so it is quite a fast road because you come in off London Road, which is 40 miles an hour, going to 30, people turning left. Then to find that sort of like stretch of road, not past the cult where it was quite busy, but after the shops and then up to the railway station, is particularly fast, and there have been a number of near misses. But at night, it's being used, that whole London Road, Grange Road, and then back down or along Newington Road is being used as a bit of a track.
And the High Street.
Yeah. So that's something
I've talked to the police about that.
that we need to consider.
Councillor Wing.
I mean, obviously I did that map where I looked at the 25 years of incidents. So there were fatal incidents, and if you look at some of the fatal incidents, like the one in Leopold Street, it's completely driver error. So for me, the next category, which was a serious incident where there were life-changing situations for the people involved in those crashes, and then you have the near misses, and what the road, obviously Dumpton Park came at the top, but the road that stood out for me and that was well evidenced once you take the fatalities out was Newington Road. And I tried to look at, what road, and I agree with you on Grange Road, because Grange Road also falls into this category, although I don't know how, I'll have a look at it on my sheet that I did. The reason Newington I felt could be a place for the 3rd one is because it's got schools and shops along it. So not only has it got the highest serious incidents on that road at various junctions, and we could look at where the serious junctions are to locate it, which is what I think we should do to Dumpton Park Road, because I did put the junctions that were worse as well. Also, it could have the maximum benefit because there's lots of people going to school. There's 2 schools there, and I think Grange Road could be a similar one, but the data that I've got and knowing what I know of Newington in comparison to Grange Road, I think Newington would need to be first and then Grange Road. I think what we've got to get in our heads, and it was difficult for me, is we've started a process of sorting stuff out. It's not a knee-jerk. We're not saying, oh, we'll do this and we'll do that and we'll do this. We've actually developed a plan that we'll review every year. So as things get sorted, the next things come up. So I'm happy to go back and look at Grange Road, but I think we need to be evidence-based in where we put stuff.
Okay, Councillor Sean, sorry, can we move to Councillor Sean, please?
2 roads, I think, probably, if we could have a moving sign. The worst road I'd say is Hartmore Parade. When they come out of Wetherspoon, they're going up that road at 80 mile an hour. If there's a camera at the top of that road, you could probably catch at least 20 motorists on
There's a camera there, actually.
Yeah, and if only they've listened to me at Chatham Street, if they put a zebra crossing at the bottom where that post box was, there would have been no problem. That would have slowed the traffic down. Instead of that, I had a word with the bursar or the headmaster at Chatham House, and we haven't got the money like we used to have.
Well, they have, the school have.
Yeah, I know, but years ago we'd have.
No reason.
Yeah, anyway, if they put the zebra crossing at the bottom of Chatham Street.
I've got videos taken from my balcony.
I know.
Of the kids
I've walked the streets every day for the last, 60 years.
across the road.
See the street every night there, just turning right.
We put the wires across the road.
Speed monitoring.
Speed monitoring. Though I do notice actually that it only measured cars coming down the hill, and that is not the ones that speed on there. Councillor.
I was going to say, I don't think we should suggest to KCC that there are lots of cars going much faster than 20 miles an hour on the high street at the moment, because the fact that they've got this recording of relatively low speeds is encouraging them to start taking seriously the prospect of the 20 mile an hour zone. So you're sort of between the devil and the deep sea on this one.
So we definitely need some
We need
control there. We really do.
I was going to ask
a shock.
Oh, sorry. I'm not clear about these devices and the poles and whatever. How long are they with us? Are we buying them forever? Are they leased? What's the arrangement?
Well, we can have up to 5 poles, but we only go.
So 3's the minimum.
Yeah. So we get one at either end of Dumpton Park Drive.
Yeah.
We've got to say more or less where they go.
Yes.
So one will be in Broadstairs.
Yes.
And Broadstairs will contribute
Yes.
to this. And they'll be facing different directions.
Yeah.
There is one device.
Yep.
Right, that has to be moved every 8 weeks.
Right.
And it is battery powered. And the battery has to be charged. I think in situ it can be charged. But we're going to be dependent on the technicians for doing this.
Right. And how long, I mean, every 8 weeks, how long are we going to carry on with that? Is that going to be there permanently?
I would hope so, because
that's the plan.
They are effective.
Yep.
They don't do the job completely.
No,
But
it will help.
it will help. The other thing, it's limited. It won't do 20 or below, and it won't do 40 or above, because you get the boy and girl, I think, racers who try and get these things as high as they can by going as fast as they can. So that is the plan. We have to decide where they're going to go. Now, the thing with Newington Road, because some of the Eastcliff councillors say Boundary Road is a problem, and there are accidents in Boundary Road, but there's too many traffic lights. Theoretically, they should not be able to speed up between traffic lights, so somehow they do. So we don't want too many traffic lights, and we don't want too many parked cars. So Newington Road, do we have a lot clear?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll have a drive.
Particularly that last stretch that goes down to James Janet.
We need to identify spots, and then they will, or maybe 2 possible spots, and they will come and assess it, whether it's suitable, which is going to be our next battle. I think we know where in Dumpton Park Drive to do it, because they're already in Dumpton Park Drive. Don't know whether anyone's noticed, they're doing the portable one.
Yes.
Yes. Now, that could be used anywhere in Ramsgate or Broadstairs, but we're trying to keep it. It could be used anywhere in Ramsgate, but you've got to do the training. Becky's done it and I've done it.
And we've had a go.
And we've had a go, but having had lots of personal problems recently, haven't been out doing it, but I will be
Get back out, yeah.
And you haven't either. No. But there is quite a dedicated group of local residents who go out 2 or 3 times a week to do it.
Yeah.
With their high-vis jackets on. And what happens is they have to record the make, colour and number of a car that's doing over 35. And there are very few, because you can see the high-vis jackets from miles away.
So you out.
They slow down, and as soon as they're past, they put their foot down as well. But it does make them aware, and we also get lots of people saying, you know, oh, good job you're doing here, and all that. A lot of support. And we're also getting the police out there doing it as well recently. So, which...
It's a win-win situation.
It's a win-win. Yes, Councillor Sean.
I'm in favour of those portable signs because it's education.
Yeah.
I mean, you can have 10 mile an hour, 20 mile an hour, but if you've got an idiot behind the steering wheel, I mean, there's a house demolished along Newington Road, and that nothing to do with the proper speeds, it's people just speeding. Talking about Grange Road, I would say that polices itself because the buses.
Yeah.
So,
Not at night.
No, it doesn't.
well,
Not at
I've lived in Ramsgate all my life.
I live in Grange Road, my love.
Very friendly here tonight. Anyway, you probably see it, don't you? That road is heavily used. I'm not saying it isn't. Buses have a job to get along there.
Have you looked at the crash data? I'll send you the crash data.
Well, we all come to this table with our own ideas.
Yeah.
I mean, I would say the first one would be, if we got those portable signs up, which I would be in favour of, Harbour Parade, where they go racing up there. Don't know what we're going to do about Chapman Street. If they don't listen to me, they've stuck it up the other end where Farley's was and up near Astor, which doesn't really work, but if we'd had one there. But anyway, if you say Grange Road...
At the moment, the building works there are slowing everybody down. So we'll have to see. I'm tending to go for Newington Road because I think it ticks some of our boxes with schools.
Yes.
I'm not sure whether it's going to be suitable, but we need to propose something to the community.
I would propose what Councillor Wing said with regards to, it has to follow data, otherwise we're not going to get anywhere. Do you know what I mean? And so yes, of course, Newington Road first, and especially because it's got schools. The rest of them definitely. I mean, Grange Road and others that I'm sure other councillors could mention, sort of like other things if they were here and so on and so forth. But we need to be then keeping a log of other roads that could be appropriate as it comes up. Grange Road definitely being one of them. Like I said, it's just got worse over the last few months.
As we say, Broadstairs are desperate to have the third pole, but they could get their own.
They can get their own.
They can get.
But I would back Councillor Wing up for Newington Road.
I think we've got to avoid nepotism. We've got to, and everything we do has got to be evidence-based, okay? So Harbour Parade doesn't have the same level of incidents as Newington or other roads. I'll send you the crash data because I spent hours looking at it. We have to make sure that whatever we do is evidence-based and we can justify it. And it gives us an order of things.
The portable one can be used anywhere as long as there are volunteers to
manage it,
learn how to do it and to go out and do it. So we have that. It's kept in John Challoner's house in Dumpton Park Drive, and anyone trained can actually take it to Harbour Parade or Grange Road or wherever to try it out, to see. It has, I mean, there are lots of requirements about having, long visibility.
Can't be done at night.
It can't be done at night, can't be done in school times, etc.
Yes.
But I'm going to propose that we go for Newington Road.
Yeah.
Do we have a second of that? Yeah. All those in favour?
Can I just say, I'm going to abstain on this one because there's a lot of councils getting into troubles with speed limits. Residents have actually taken councils to court, so I'm going to try and find as much detail as I can from KCC, and we'll wait till this data comes back. Fair enough?
We're not
We're not putting a speed limit on it.
No, I know.
It's just a thing that slows you down. It's not a speed restriction. It's actually reminding you to do the speed limit.
It still comes down to educating that driver.
Yes.
And that's what this does.
Exactly it.
And this is what it does.
I've seen it along Ramsgate
I
Road.
think we've passed Newington with one abstention and the rest of us voted for it. Right, so have we finished the traffic stuff?
I'll send you that crash data and I'll send it I'll book it on.
And so now we move on to the National Grid.
Thank you, Chair. So this is for the Sea-Link, which is a proposed 138-kilometre electricity connection between Pegwell Bay and the Suffolk coast. The project includes 122 kilometres of offshore cabling and 14 kilometres of underground cabling connecting to a new converter station at each end. The project is part of National Grid's wider programme, the Great Grid Upgrade, which involves a series of infrastructure developments intended to expand the capacity of the electricity transmission network. It is intended to support the transmission of electricity, including from renewable and low-carbon sources, to meet growing energy demands. So National Grid submitted a development consent application for the Sea-Link project, which has now been accepted by the Planning Inspectorate. The project now enters the pre-examination stage. During this time, stakeholders, including the public, can register as interested parties to participate in the process. The next stages will be a preliminary meeting to outline how the examination will be conducted, after which the Planning Inspectorate will proceed to examination, including a series of public hearings. Once the examination phase is closed, the Planning Inspectorate will make recommendations to the Secretary of State, who will make the final decision on the application. There's then the examination stage, where the Planning Inspectorate will formally examine the application, include public hearings and detailed conversation on evidence and feedback from interested parties. Then the recommendation stage, the Planning Inspector will make a recommendation to the Secretary of State for energy security and net zero, and then the final decision, the Secretary of State will make the final decision on whether to approve the project. So I presume that the council would like to register to make a comment. However, in order to register to make a comment, you need to give a comment. And we must include comments with your registration. Your comments must be about what you consider to be the main issues and impacts. You should include as much detail as possible and cover anything that may affect your day-to-day life. This information will be seen by the examining authority and published on our website. You will be able to submit further comments during the examination of the application once you have registered, and the period for making comments is the 8th of May to the 23rd of June. So whereas I expected to just give our name and contact details, I need to lead with a comment, which is what I'm asking you to confirm now. A suggested starting point is actually our comments that were made back in August 2024, which are on the screen, which I believe are still all relevant. So whether you're happy with those being our opening comment, subject to making further comment.
None of them directly influence any of us, do they? Directly?
The recent information I've got about Western Undercliff is they will be removing, because I'm assuming that a lot of the aggregate coming from Brett's, because they have to raise, the battery plant had to be raised to 3 metres high on the floodplain, the worst place to build something. So there's a huge amount of aggregate going to be used. and they need to make sure that the lorries have got clear access. So I think there's going to be removal of benches along there. A lot of the storage is going to be on the hoverport. They're going to use a great big area of the hoverport.
I'm not sure they're allowed to do that.
Well, TDC have said they can't, but they can still.
They can't compulsory purchase it because it's for a temporary use.
But the pins could force TDC to use it. I think the other thing that came up recently for us was cost. So the pylons are a massive issue because they go around in a big fan, and you've got right on the flight path of migratory birds, some of which are endangered and red listed.
In a way that affects us personally.
Yes.
But it's not like there's a thing at the bottom.
The alterations at the Western Undercliff might affect them.
Yes, a lot of people.
I think if you think the only positive in this area, according to poverty data, is our environment, the fact we live by the sea, and we've got a beautiful area, we're now looking at a development which is basically for 4 years going to trash that. So for 4 years we are going to be negatively impacted by lorries, hundreds and thousands of lorries taking gravel to raise the bed. The cumulative impact is a real serious issue because you've got so many developments in an area, and that doesn't even include the stuff on the Dover side.
Luckily we have the tunnel, and hopefully they will make sure the tunnel
is open.
So that it doesn't have to
come through town.
Which would affect us. Councillor Shaw.
I think it's one of the biggest talking points in Thanet, whether in Ramsgate or not. I know people have done Go Wild, the amount of bird life, habitat loss, flora and fauna. And when they dig this up, and it's going to go from Pegwell Bay as well, I think there's some work done there before, and it was never ready tied up. There's still a bung of chalk dumped down there. And there's all that wetland, unless you actually see a picture of it, that's all going to be concreted over. So, we've lost too much land in Thanet anyway. Whether this is a cheapest option, or there's an alternative. But I think as a Ramsgate Town Council, all of us should be dead against it. It's on the page every day. We've been up there, and about 2 years ago, signing document for this. I know not predetermination, but it's a beauty spot. You're going to ruin that. Absolutely ruin it. And once you dig a hole, you can't get all that soil back in again. I think we really need to see how many people are against it on the south of the...
Well, we've already got that on our list.
I just hope it's not predetermined.
Permanent loss, noise and disturbance, visual amenity. We haven't got the flight path of migrating birds.
I think there's going to be a considerable impact to people in Cliffs End and Ramsgate around the port during the construction phase. It's going to be quite terrible. Yeah. But also, I sit here as a Green councillor. I'm not a climate denier. I think we've got to say that we support this country trying to meet its energy security and lower bills, which never seems to happen, and also the drive for net zero. But there are cheaper alternatives, and the pylons, for example, can go underground. I understand from Nemo that the reason you've got the hump, if you go to is because they couldn't dig down because it's all contaminated land, so they didn't want to disturb the contamination, so they put the cables there and they bunged over the top. But we have reported that because they should have chalk seeded it, and they didn't do that.
I'll just relate something that is relevant, but not in a way. When we lived in Ireland, they came to put these pylons, including one with 100 yards of our house, and there was a big movement against it, and there was public inquiry, and we won the public inquiry against the pylons. They need to follow the roads or put them underground, whatever. And the government just overruled it and put them there. So that will happen.
Like we've had with Manchester.
representative.
But it doesn't mean
But we've got to, yes.
My experience of the battery plant is Pacific Green are now in negotiations with us, and we're having an input into their biodiversity net gain, which interestingly, biodiversity net gain doesn't include anything to attract actual birds and mammals. It's all about greenery, which would eventually attract it, but it doesn't include putting bird boxes up. So we have to battle to get the best possible outcome if it goes against us.
Yes,
I think we've got a really good argument. I mean, those pylons, those concrete jackets go a long way down into that ground. It's really going to spoil that whole area, and I think we should either some expert here to tell us, looking at that really.
I mean, pylons are going to be the way of life now if we've got all this green energy.
Somewhere else. Somewhere else.
And battery plants. So have we got enough to say to put our bid in for?
So, I mean, this is not our final comment. It's not going to be long until the final comment is needed, but this is to get the ball rolling.
Yeah.
And whether that is you're happy with that being the starting position, or whether there's any changes to be made. Sorry.
Only just to the point that Suffolk, which is it's Aldborough, isn't it? And they're a very wealthy area, and they've put an awful lot of money into this, and they've had a lot of people involved. And I'd be interested to see just how they're progressing with some of this, because where they lead, we could follow perhaps.
Yes.
Is that information that we can use?
That's what we said already. Right, can we agree? I mean, I propose we go with that and migratory birds. What have we got that's new, Town Clerk? And then we can vote on it.
So you were correct, Chair, and that'll be the specific mention to the flight path of migratory birds.
Yep. One of the things that I noticed on the Pegwell Bay bit was that they seem to expand the area. They seem to, and I asked the question at one of the Sea-Link about what are you doing in there? Why have you, because they've taken sort of 60% of Pegwell Bay, which is, it's a marine protected environment. What are you doing in there, and why is it so wide? And they didn't answer that question, so there's uncertainty about exactly what's happening in Pegwell Bay itself.
Understood. We can then start to ask further questions. So, final.
Because I think it's such an important issue, I'd like to see, he's not an expert, but he's very knowledgeable, it's Nick Mitchell. He'd probably give us a talk about all the things we've forgotten.
He's doing them regularly, you just attend one.
He could come here.
We can still do that, we just need to get this in
That's fine.
order to register for future comments.
We're in Ellington Park on Sunday as well, Save Minster Marshes.
Right,
In
so
Ellington.
I propose we go with that.
I've been on their committee.
Councillor Hetherington, all those in favour? That's everybody. Right. And then we get to planning applications, Dean.
It's like a TDC planning meeting live. Is that on?
Yeah.
So the first application is land adjacent to 17 Effingham Street. This is a correction of one number 3-storey building to facilitate 101 bed and 102 bed self-contained flats together with parking. Approved by Councillor Wing, recently called in the conservation area for development, existing plans development.
Councillor Wing, do you want to?
Yeah, I couldn't work out where this was, so
It's the entrance.
I've got it now. So it's opposite Radford House is that bit which is parking, allocated parking. I think there are allocated parking bays there for the flats, upon which now they want to squeeze something in. But also behind there, because I've been and looked at their bins and moaned about them because they're so terrible, is their whole bin storage. So how is our waste team going to turn their big vehicles on Effingham Street to get into those waste bins there?
It isn't, it's on Effingham Street, it's literally just there.
It's
a little bit of sliver of land.
It's that tiny sliver.
Next to the entrance.
Next to
not
the
entrance.
Yes.
You know where the gable end to the building is
Yeah.
and you can see the fireplace on the wall?
Yes.
Really?
It's that
blimey.
little bit.
You're giving them far too much,
Used to be a storage yard.
It's
yeah,
absolutely tiny.
yeah.
Used to be a storage yard.
I thought it was the whole area, so it's just that bit.
No,
Just that sliver.
that sliver that people park on, but unofficially.
Delivery drivers all drop off there, etc., to the flats.
Yes,
Well, they can still go into the car park.
Yes.
I mean, I personally am very much in favour of filling in our little
Yes, absolutely. But
waste sites.
very tiny.
In favour of putting accommodation in the town centre
Yeah.
for single people.
Thoroughly support you on those. This is tiny.
It is tiny.
If you look at the access roads, how large, and I think the Paladin bin vehicles are larger than the normal waste.
They can bring it out
That's
to the road.
KCC's issue, not ours, isn't it?
It's TDC's issue, but it's still something we need to bring up. We always bring waste up.
So this is free.
They bring them out to the road. They do that from the car park behind my house. They bring them out to Chapel Place.
And we have, I tell you, you do not want Paladin bins on the road because we've got them on.
They're not on the road.
On St Augustine's, they come out from the flats and it's a fly tipping nightmare.
Yeah.
You don't want bins being pulled onto a road. They need to be where they are and collected, which is where they're collected from now.
Well, it's a town centre site. And we need accommodation. Sorry, Dean.
No, just like, so in the planning application, they've ticked no for both questions for making provision for waste.
That was one of the things I wanted to say, because we were talking about calling it into TDC planning on that basis.
Right.
And I'm sure James Stratford
Will be
the
on
waste team will be on it.
When you think that waste storage area behind is servicing 85 flats, it's not just one or two Paladin bins.
Yeah, that's nothing to do with this application. This application still stands on its own.
But impact on neighbours.
I don't see how that impacts on the waste storage, those 80-odd flats. Yes.
I should be voting against it. I think we should leave it to TDC matter. I think it's too small. I've walked by there many a time. Far too small.
Right,
God knows what the bedroom's going to look like. I mean, a family house, yeah.
What are the dimensions?
It's for single people, it's for people like teachers, nurses. You know, we all vote against HMOs. There's nowhere for people to live. Yeah.
Yeah, can we see what the dimensions are there of the proper?
So on they've only got the dimensions for the ground floor, of the actual building. Yeah, for the individual rooms, there's no dimensions.
Okay.
They're dealing square meterage, but.
Right, that's next.
I mean, it is the footprint of a terrace house. And it used to be, you know, and the other houses in the road are of that footprint. I would have no objection to it being built.
Councillor Hetherington. Sorry, I thought you were...
No, I was just, sorry.
Could I just look at, if you look at the aerial view, and then if you look at the aerial view, it's taking up most of that. And the front on view, it's not taking up most of that. So I think there's some misleading visuals here. There was a picture where it seemed to be quite small on that side, but if you look at the aerial view, it's actually not. The red line is obviously the outlined area of the planning application.
Yes, that's the site.
It's 3 windows across.
I mean, it's similar to the other houses in the street, which have very little outside space. It's not needing a car parking space. Well, it's got one car parking space. Councillor Hetherington,
No, I don't have a problem with this.
you don't have a problem. Councillor Nixon, I don't have a problem.
I do.
You do.
I have a problem because I thought that space there was allocated parking bays with flats behind.
No, it's not.
That needs confirming because I thought that was the case.
But it's not.
But it isn't, it isn't.
It is.
Have you looked at the previous application for the flats?
No, I haven't.
Yeah, that's what needs to happen.
Okay.
You need to look at the previous application
Well,
to check.
TDC need to look at that, don't they?
And then there's still going to be an impact on the waste around the area, and I think it's really weird when they've put no to waste on their own application. That was my.
Councillor Nixon.
I would propose that I'm not against building something and using the site and filling in the areas. However, I have concerns with regards to no waste.
Yes.
And I would want to make sure that that was something that was dealt with.
Okay.
And I would also want to make sure that it wasn't keeping height-wise. I know it was varied along that road, but as long as it wasn't overtly out with regards to height compared to the neighbour, the immediate neighbour.
Well, it's showing, isn't it?
Well, it isn't. On 17, it's a lot lower. So yes, it goes up the road, but there's a gap between that and 21, isn't it? So I would actually say, with regards to 17 and impact on neighbours, I would be concerned that they weren't affected by the height of it. But as filling that site in, then and having a dwelling in there,
It's a gable wall. So can we put this into a motion?
I did.
Vote on. No, smaller.
Okay.
Speak, Chair.
Yes, sorry.
Can I just suggest an amendment to what Councillor Nix said, because I'm behind that, that we also want to check about access for large vehicles, particularly I'm thinking about fire tenders. Because it looks very, very narrow, that access there. If they've got to get into the back of the flats, I don't know whether they'll be able to get through.
But I do think that's something that's not necessarily for us. I think that would be, because it's not access to that building. So what I'm saying is, to this application,
Yeah.
I think you have to look at what's on the application. I think if you're looking at access to other things, I think that's other departments.
No, it's impact on neighbours.
But I think
It's a planning.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah, it's impact on
and
neighbours.
we probably should, our comments on waste obviously were picked up by the waste team, our comments on fire by the fire and rescue, but I think it's worth saying anyway, that in principle we think the infill idea is a good one, but we have some specific concerns.
Okay.
Okay.
You're going to call it in anyway.
Can we,
need to
well, I will second that, or Councillor Hetherington will second it. Can we vote in favour of, in principle, we agree that building on that site is a good idea, right? But
The TDC have a sort of final say on this.
We're calling it in.
We don't have a say on it, we just...
Yeah, we're calling it in. I think there's some concerns anyway, so.
okay. So Dean,
I'll look at the previous application.
Second application is flats 34 to 82 Queensbridge Drive, so this is the other side of the road.
No, this came before.
This is installation of 400 shared parallel antennae, 600 dishes, 300 unilateral cabinets for telecommunication and similar equipment. Central conservation area according by Councillor Wing. Central conservation area is the size and scale of equipment and impact on neighbours.
So this is the flats behind we've been talking about, and this came before. I don't know whether it got here or whether it was just rejected by TDC, because I picked up on it quite quickly. But you can see the size of the antennae are absolutely massive. I mean, it's the equivalent of a floor. Conservation area, completely out of keeping.
do people in conservation areas not use their mobile phones?
If this was being placed on top of a Georgian property in a conservation area, it wouldn't be allowed. It's a conservation area. You know, there are other means of getting 5G or G5 into an area. It's not even intrusive. Yeah.
Councillor Nixon.
I also find it intrusive. I think the deal we have here is there was a planning permission for a block of flats and that was approved, doesn't it? And this is an add-on. So if it had been incorporated in, because again they had technology back when these were built, you know, it would have been a different matter. And so therefore, yes, of course, they're going to use a mobile phones in conservation area, good point, but if you're going to do a planning application and then another planning application to do that, then why didn't you involve it in the first place? And I would...
It was one on appeal, I think. That development.
Absolutely. What I'm saying is this is a planning application to put something on top of that. So why wasn't it incorporated within the original design? So that's unfortunate because now it's an add-on, and so therefore I would prefer it if it wasn't on there.
It's,
Councillor Austin.
it links to what Councillor Nixie said before when we were looking at Effingham Street about height. This is already a very large and imposing development in the centre of town, and this is going to change the streetscape completely.
I think it actually interferes.
Councillor Wing.
It actually interferes. I mean, I'd like to see a view around it in relation to the town, because we have a particular scene with St George's lamp there and the tops of gabled historic buildings.
Yeah.
And this is just completely out of keeping with all of that. Stuff it on the pool.
Yes, I mean, there's a sort of level of duplicity about this actually coming in. You know, it should have been incorporated in the original plan.
Yeah.
And it is a very large bit of kit they've stuck on the top there. Yeah.
I propose therefore that we object very strongly to this, that it wasn't incorporated in the original plan and that it's an eyesore in our conservation area and very much not in keeping with its surroundings.
I'm not sure.
We understand the need for modern technology. We do feel that it could be more appropriately placed in other areas.
Yeah, I'm not sure that the not included in the original plan is a valid planning.
I think the impact on skyscape.
Yeah.
It is the impact on the
Skyscape.
Skyline and the street.
Skyline, skyscape.
I think probably could be valid.
Fair enough.
Right, I will second that. All those in favour? That's everybody.
Dog wash.
I think
We're off now.
we're finished now.
No, there's a brilliant dog wash
I was
place.
just interested in this erection of an enclosed self-serve dog wash unit.
No, it's there. It's as you go on the Hayne Road. I was going to take her to have a go. It's like £7 you get, actually, a cheap bath.
Hello, the date and time next meeting is Wednesday the 4th of June.
Thank you.
Marvellous.
Just had